It was supposed to be a simple evening. Malik Johnson had just wrapped up a brutal week of overtime at the law firm. Tired but proud, he figured he'd treat himself to a good meal, something more upscale than his usual go-to spots. After scrolling through reviews and checking a few menus, he landed on a place called Pine and Birch. Rustic, elegant, tucked in the nicer part of town. The pictures online looked like something out of a luxury travel magazine. Warm lighting, handcrafted wood tables, smiling guests sipping wine, five-star reviews everywhere. He didn't think twice. He grabbed his keys, threw on a clean jacket, and drove across the city. When Malik stepped through the front doors of Pine and Birch, the shift in energy was instant. The soft jazz overhead couldn't drown out what really happened. Conversations stopped, heads turned, a fork clinked against a plate and stayed there. The kind of silence that didn't feel accidental. It felt pointed, like every eye in the room had locked onto him with the same unspoken question. What is he doing here? He hesitated for a split second, then shook it off. Maybe he was just imagining it. Maybe they weren't used to new faces. After all, it was a small, boutique place. A blonde woman at the hostess stand gave him a sharp look. Early to mid-40s, slim, expression like she'd just smelled something off. "Hi," Malik said with a polite smile. "Table for one, please." The woman didn't respond right away. She just stared at him, scanning him up and down like she was trying to find a reason to say no. "Do you have a reservation?" she finally asked. Her tone clipped. "No, I didn't realize I needed one. The site didn't mention it," he replied. "We're fully booked tonight," she said, a little too quickly. Malik's eyes drifted over her shoulder. The dining room was barely half full. Several tables sat untouched, menus already placed, glasses sparkling in the soft light. Not a single reserved sign in sight. He raised an eyebrow. "I don't mind waiting if needed. Doesn't look like it's too crowded." Before the hostess could respond, a tall man stepped out from the back. A white man in his 50s with a thick silver beard, rolled up sleeves and a chest puffed with authority. He looked like the kind of guy who called himself old school, but wore that label like armor. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, addressing the hostess without looking at Malik. "He doesn't have a reservation," she said quickly. The man finally turned to Malik. His gaze was cold, calculated. "Sir," he said slowly, "this isn't that kind of place. You might want to try somewhere more suited to your taste." Malik blinked. "Excuse me?" he said, trying to keep his tone neutral. The man stepped a little closer, lowered his voice like he was doing Malik a favor by not embarrassing him louder. "We run a certain kind of establishment here," he said. "Our guests expect a particular atmosphere. You understand, don't you?" The implication hit hard. There was no subtlety, not even an attempt to mask it behind corporate jargon. Malik wasn't unwelcome because of a dress code or a reservation list. He was unwelcome because he was black. He stood there, pulse quickening, jaw tight. He'd been here before, not this restaurant, but here, this moment, this feeling. "I just came for a steak and some peace and quiet," he said calmly. That's when it got worse. A couple walked in behind him, white, mid-30s, casual dress. The man smiled at the hostess. "Hey, we were just driving by," he said. "Figured we'd see if you had room." The hostess brightened immediately. "Of course, right this way." She grabbed two menus and motioned them forward, not even pretending to check a list. Malik looked back at the man, who was now glaring at him like he was the problem. "I'm asking you to leave," the man said. There was no doubt now, no mistaking it. Malik pulled out his phone and hit record. Calm, steady. "Can you repeat that?" he asked. The owner's eyes narrowed at the camera, then back at him. "You heard me." Malik didn't argue, didn't make a scene. He turned his phone toward the room, capturing the empty tables, the couple being seated, the hostess pretending he didn't exist. Then he walked out. But that wasn't the end of the story, not even close. Because what happened next, what that video would trigger, was something no one saw coming. Malek didn't say a word as he got into his car. He just sat there for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, jaw clenched. He had experienced racism before, subtle comments, longer waits, security guards following him in stores. But this was something else. This was bold, shameless, public, and he had it on camera. He watched the clip again, just to be sure. The owner's voice, "You might want to try somewhere more suited to your taste." The camera panning to the empty tables. The white couple being seated without a reservation. The way the hostess turned her back like he wasn't even there. Malik's thumb hovered over the screen. He wasn't the type to post online about this kind of thing. He didn't like attention. He didn't want pity. But this wasn't about him anymore. It was about the next black man who might walk into Pine and Birch and get humiliated for no reason other than the color of his skin. So he posted it. He uploaded the video to TikTok and Instagram with a simple caption, "Went to a 5-star steakhouse. Got told I didn't belong. Watch how they treat me." Then he locked his phone, started his car, and drove home. That night, he tried to distract himself with Netflix, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. The owner's face. The way he said atmosphere, like it was code for white only. It made Malik sick. By morning, everything had changed. His phone was blowing up. Notifications nonstop. 30,000 views. 50. 100,000. He refreshed his TikTok. Now 500,000. Comments poured in. "This is disgusting. Name the restaurant. This man needs to be held accountable. Tagging every news outlet I know. Not in 2025. No way." Some people even recognized the place. Locals began confirming what Malik suspected. "I've heard things about Pine and Birch. My friend works there and said they do this all the time. This ain't the first time they've turned someone away." By noon, national accounts had picked up the video. By evening, it hit 1 million views. A journalist from a major news site DM'd Malik asking for an interview. A local civil rights group reached out, offering legal support if he wanted it. Even celebrities were commenting. The video struck a nerve. Meanwhile, over at Pine and Birch, the storm was just beginning. Their Google reviews went from 5 stars to 4 overnight, then 3, then 2. People started posting their own experiences. Some shared screenshots of reservations suddenly lost when they showed up in person. Others said they'd always felt an off vibe but never spoke up until now. The restaurant tried to delete the comments, but it was too late. The truth was out. Then the owner responded. A shaky, poorly lit video was uploaded to the restaurant's Facebook page. The same man from the video, now suddenly full of regret. "I'd like to apologize for the misunderstanding," he said, eyes darting off camera. "We have always welcomed everyone into our restaurant, regardless of race or background." He didn't say Malik's name. He didn't admit to what he said. He called it a miscommunication. The comments tore him apart. "Misunderstanding. We heard you loud and clear. You're not sorry. You're just caught. This man needs to lose his business." But Malik, he stayed quiet. He didn't post another video. Didn't respond to interviews. He just watched everything unfold in silence. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that someone else had been watching that video closely. Someone with their own reason for keeping Pine and Birch's secrets hidden. And that person? They weren't about to let Malik walk away clean. The video kept gaining traction. Millions of views, national headlines. Malik's name was now everywhere, even though he hadn't posted a single word since the original clip. People called him brave, strong, an activist. But Malik didn't feel like any of those things. He felt exposed, the kind of attention he never asked for. He kept his head down, went to work, ignored the cameras parked outside Pine and Birch. But behind the scenes, things were getting worse, for the restaurant and for Malik. Because someone inside that place, they had something to say. Her name was Janelle, a 24-year-old waitress who'd been working at Pine and Birch for just over a year. She wasn't close with the owner, barely spoke to the hostess. But she had seen things, heard things. And when Malik's video hit her timeline, her stomach turned. She remembered that night. She remembered seeing him walk in, how the whole place tensed up. She remembered the owner muttering, "Not again," under his breath as he came out from the back. But she had stayed quiet. Until now. Janelle sent an anonymous tip to a local reporter. She wrote, "There's more going on at Pine and Birch than people think. That wasn't the first time. He said worse. He's done worse. I have proof." That was all it took. Within hours, the reporter reached out, promising full anonymity and protection. Janelle agreed to meet in private, and what she shared? It blew the story wide open. Audio recordings. Janelle had been secretly recording conversations for months, not because she expected anything to happen, but because she was paranoid. She'd had her hours cut with no warning, tips skimmed off her paycheck, and she suspected the owner had been doing it to others too. But in one of those recordings, the truth slipped out. The owner could be heard laughing in the kitchen, speaking to a small group of employees. "I don't care what the internet says. You let too many of them in, and it changes the whole vibe. People want to feel comfortable when they eat here. Not like they're in a damn hip-hop video." Another voice chuckled nervously. Someone else said, "Careful, man. You don't want that getting out." But he just laughed louder. "What, you think anybody's going to believe some angry customer over me? Please." Janelle had it all. Time-stamped. Clear. Unedited. The reporter published the piece under the headline, "Insider at Pine and Birch Confirms Pattern of Racism." Audio tapes reveal the truth. It exploded. News outlets picked it up immediately. Local officials began investigating. Protesters gathered outside the restaurant, demanding it be shut down. Yelp and Google disabled new reviews due to the flood of backlash. But while the internet rallied behind Malik, his phone rang, an unknown number. He let it go to voicemail. Then another, then a text. "Stop digging. You've done enough damage." Malik froze. He hadn't said anything publicly since that first video. He hadn't posted new footage. He didn't even have the recordings. So how did someone get his number? The texts kept coming. "People like you don't know when to quit. Back off or it gets worse. We know where you live." And that's when it hit him. This wasn't just about a steakhouse anymore. Someone had taken it personally. Malik stared at the messages on his screen, his mind racing. "We know where you live." They weren't just trolling. These weren't random online threats from fake accounts. These felt personal. Director. Someone wanted him to be afraid, and it was working. He turned off his phone, pulled the blinds in his apartment, and sat in silence for a long time. His chest felt tight, not from fear, but from the growing weight of a decision he hadn't made yet. He didn't ask for this fight. All he wanted was a meal. All he did was tell the truth. But now the truth had teeth. By the next day, everything had escalated. The restaurant was officially closed for renovation, though everyone knew it was code for "we're panicking." More employees came forward anonymously. Some shared text messages. Others brought receipts of racial discrimination in hiring and service policies. A full-blown investigation had begun. And Malik? He still hadn't said a word publicly. That silence? It made people curious, hungry. Journalists camped outside his job. Podcasters reached out for interviews. Civil rights lawyers offered to represent him for free. Everyone wanted to hear what he had to say, but Malik was too busy looking over his shoulder, because that morning his car window was smashed. Nothing stolen, just shattered glass and a note left on the passenger seat. "You're not a hero, you're a problem." The police showed up, took a report, and left without much more than a shrug. One officer suggested it might have been just some kids, but Malik knew better. Whoever it was, they wanted him scared, isolated, and silent. But then something happened that changed everything. Janelle, the waitress who had exposed the recordings, messaged him from a burner account. She wanted to meet, in person. They chose a public park, broad daylight, no cameras, no wires, no setups. When they met, Janelle wore a hoodie and sunglasses, her hair pulled back, eyes darting around nervously. "I'm sorry," she said, before anything else. "I should have said something sooner." "You said more than most ever would," Malik replied. Janelle hesitated, then looked him straight in the eyes. "There's something you don't know," she said, "about the owner, about who he's connected to." Malik frowned. "What do you mean?" "He's not just some bitter old racist running a steakhouse. He's got people in places, cops, council members, suppliers, people who've kept his secrets for years. And they're scared that what you started is going to unravel all of it." She took out her phone and handed it to him. Photos, names, a list of contacts, messages about paying off inspections, ignoring discrimination complaints, even firing employees who spoke out. One message stood out. If this goes public, I'm dragging everyone down with me. Malik looked up. Why are you showing me this? Janelle's voice cracked. Because I can't live like this anymore. I've been part of the problem. I knew what was happening and I stayed quiet because I needed the money. But when I saw how they treated you, like you were trash, I couldn't be part of it anymore. Malik nodded slowly. This is enough to bury him, he said. Exactly, she whispered. But if we do this, it's not just about a restaurant anymore. It's about everything behind it. The good old boy system, the money, the protection. Malik looked out at the horizon. For the first time in weeks, his fear gave way to something else, resolve. I didn't pick this fight, he said, but I'm not running from it either. But what Malik didn't know, what Janelle wasn't telling him, was that someone had been watching them from across the park, camera in hand, lens zoomed in, and within hours, that footage would be in the hands of someone who would stop at nothing to silence the both of them.
Janelle, too, was now in hiding. Her phone went silent. Her social media, gone. She had disappeared, probably terrified of the same people who were now gunning for Malik. He sat in his apartment rewatching the video over and over. He couldn't believe it. He didn't know who to trust anymore. But then, just as quickly as the flood of negativity came, something else happened. A breakthrough. A voice. An unexpected message from someone Malik hadn't heard from in years. Lieutenant Jason Hayes, an old acquaintance from his law school days. A cop who had always seemed different from the others. I know this has been rough on you, but there's more to the story. Meet me tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Don't trust the media. I'll show you the truth. Malik didn't hesitate. He replied, agreeing to the meeting. The next morning, he stood at the entrance of a small coffee shop, eyes scanning the crowd. He had no idea what to expect, but as soon as Hayes walked in, Malik's gut told him this was real. Jason Hayes was no longer the young officer Malik had known. He was older, worn, but the seriousness in his eyes told Malik everything he needed to know. Let's talk, Hayes said, sitting down across from him. I know what you're going through, and I know who's behind it. Malik's heart pounded in his chest. Who? Hayes leaned in, lowering his voice. The man you've been fighting, the owner of Pine and Birch. He's connected to something bigger than just a restaurant. He's been laundering money for years, moving dirty cash through his business, using connections in high places to cover his tracks. Malik shook his head. You're saying the racism was just the surface?
Exactly. It's all been a shield to keep people distracted. He's been buying silence. The cops, the council members, everyone around him. So why are you telling me this? Malik asked, his voice tight with suspicion. Because I know how this ends, Hayes replied, his eyes scanning the room to make sure no one was listening. I've been covering for him for too long, but not anymore. Malik's mind was spinning. It felt like the pieces of a much bigger puzzle were finally falling into place, but the truth was still too dangerous to process. Hayes slid a folder across the table. These are the real records, the transactions, the names. It's all here. You can take it to the authorities or you can go public with it yourself. But know this, once it's out, it's a war. Malik stared at the folder. He had a choice. He could play it safe, let the police handle it, or he could take the fight directly to the people, exposing everything once and for all. But he already knew the answer. He stood up, grabbed the folder, and nodded. It's time to end this. The war had begun. Malik went straight to the press. The next day, he released the documents, exposing every illegal transaction, every shady deal, every high-profile person involved in the operation. He didn't just focus on the restaurant, he took down the entire network. His video, along with Hayes' testimony and the evidence he provided, broke the internet again. This time for the right reasons. As for Pine and Birch, the restaurant shut down for good. The owner was arrested. Those who had enabled him were brought into the light. But even in victory, Malik knew the price of truth was steep. His life was never going to be the same. The moment he stood up, he'd become a target. But he was ready for it. Because in the end, it wasn't just about a restaurant. It was about the power of speaking out, the power of refusing to stay silent, and Malik had found his voice no matter the cost.